Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the update preview stream. This is Bugs here. I'm joined today by Artemis and Miss D. Say hi, guys.
Hey everyone.
Hello, hello.
So, hopefully, I don't bounce out randomly here, but literally just a minute before we went live, my whole machine just shut down. My UPS backup supply, just started beeping at me. I reset everything and I came back up, but I'm not sure if I got some hardware issues. But if I do bounce out, I'll be back, and I do apologize preemptively. But anyway, what is going on, everybody? Well, this is the update preview stream. This is Bugs here, and I'm getting my bearings because everything's loading back in. But what do we got going on? Well, first and foremost, as always, server wipes. What's going on with server wipes today? Well, we are 1 week since the force wipe and update. And so for Rustafied servers, it is the weekly Thursday wipe servers wiping today at their usual regular scheduled time, which of course is 3 p.m. local time for each region. That means AU wiped like 12, 13 hours ago. EU wiped 3 hours ago.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
then and then the US servers wipe in 2 hours at 3 p.m. EST. And yeah, map wipes only because it was just force wipe last week. And then we're going to go through, as always, what's going on in development for Rust this week. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to do at Miss D underscore, that's me in chat. And we'll get to as many questions as we have the opportunity to. Now, before we get into specific development news and what's going on, uh, our good friend Unity shot themselves in the foot earlier this week, and I do want to discuss that real quick. As you're probably aware, but if you're not, Unity is the underlying game engine that Rust and many, many other games run on. And earlier this week, they announced a new fee structure for their developers and for the games running on Unity. And this was out of the blue, not discussed with anyone first, and goes against all the contracts and agreements that they've set up with developers before. And the real kicker of this new fee structure is that they are proposing, well, not proposing, they're dictating a tax per game install. And this is apparently going to go into effect just next year, first thing next year, January 2024. And it looks like as much as 20 cents per game install. Now, it doesn't take too much critical thinking to realize how just fucked up this idea is, because just for one, already, as Alistair pointed out on Twitter, cheat developers are already creating scripts that will install the game on one hardware ID, uninstall it, spoof another hardware ID, install it again, and do that ad infinitum, each time potentially charging Facepunch 20 or 10 cents, whatever it ends up being, depending on volume. And this is on top of the licensing fees and everything like that that Facepunch and these other developers already pay Unity. And so Gary, in his infinite eloquence, did get on his blog with the title of Unity Can Get Fucked. And I do recommend you go read that. About 250,000 people have read it already since it was posted yesterday. But head over to Gary.net. That's Gary with 2 R's, by the way, and look at his posts and just apprise yourself of the situation, because as far as I'm concerned, Unity can get fucked. I'm with Gary on this one. And there's been a huge outlash and outcry from various developers on all socials and everything like that since they announced this earlier this week. And I'm thinking, man, they gotta roll this back. Like, they gotta backpedal on this. And they've already been doing some damage control on Twitter, like, oh no, we're totally gonna, cover you if someone does malicious attacks against this. But Unity is also notorious for not responding to customer support and everything. And also, they're the ones tracking these installs. So that looks like they're going to have trackers put into each developer's game. And then the developers just have to trust their numbers. I mean, the whole thing, as you dig into it and think about it, is completely, completely borked. And it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses and where this goes to. Is Unity going to backpedal here, or is this the downfall of Unity? I'd frankly be fine with either. I've never been a huge fan of Unity. And since they went public in, I think it was 2020, there's been a number of things that just haven't jived, so to speak. And it seems like there are better options for game engines out there. But it is unfortunate because it's not like Rust can just go, okay, we're switching to Unreal Engine, and instead of in the initial code base, instead of saying pound include Unity, they just go, oh, pound include Unreal, and it's fine. No, it requires a complete recode, and that isn't going to happen realistically. So where does this leave Rust and everything? That's up in the air. One interesting thing, if you look at the last sentence of Gary's blog, though, is that he said one thing's for sure: Rust 2 will not be coded in Unity. So Rust 2 confirmed. And then, of course, that brings on a whole slew of questions, right? And feel free to ask, but also know we have no idea. We're not developers of the game. We're not on the Facepunch payroll. We are just fans of the game like you, who love reporting on development news and running the best servers that we can. So Rust 2 confirmed. Interesting. Does that mean, if you were around for a while, you'll know that this game originally had a legacy version. And at a certain point, the developers and mainly Gary was like, okay, this legacy framework is too janky. We got to recode it from scratch. And they started then experimental. And for a while, experimental was literally just like a 6 or 8K map with rolling hills and some big wolf statues as monuments. And you literally spawned with a bolt action rifle and various other things. You couldn't build any type of protected base. There were no real good locks. The build system, if you remember, originally was the top tier was just a gold colored like wood wall. And in order to upgrade, you just whack the hammer over and over and over until you eventually upgraded. And, from there, that experimental version built into the game that we see now in front of us. And at some point in that process, legacy became, well, legacy. And for a while in the beginning of experimental, everyone was on legacy and very few people were on experimental. And then gradually over time, as things were added into experimental, that became the primary version of the game people played. And I wonder if Rust 2 is going to have a similar type of rollout where eventually in the near future they start developing Rust 2 and everyone keeps playing this version, but then at a certain point the functionality and feature set gets to a point where people just gradually start switching over to Rust 2. It's all to say it leads a lot of questions and a lot of things up in the air, and it's interesting to see. Now, I don't think Gary will just pull the plug on this version of Rust. Let's be honest, if you look at Facepunch and you look at the games they have, this is a primary source of revenue for Facepunch Studios. And I, I don't know the full specifics of their finances, but it's not too hard to come to the conclusion that it's the income that Rust is generating that is facilitating their ability to develop things like Sandbox, and to, if you see they're doing a new round of hiring of people and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure most, if not all of that, is fueled by Rust. And so I think that's good as far as Rust's future is concerned, because I don't think the plug will be pulled like end of this year just because of this. And Gary as much as said, like, it's not so much about the extra expenses, like they can eat that, but it's about the broken trust, and it's about the just fundamental unworkability of this proposed system, the tax per game installed, because there's so many ways in which it can be bastardized and exploited. So interesting stuff this week. I did want to touch on it. Once again, I don't know any specifics more than y'all know. I am keeping an eye on what Unity is saying. They are doing some damage control now, but they haven't come out and said, "Oh, we're rolling this back." They're a publicly traded company. Their stock has freaking tanked since it went public, and it's going to be interesting. Also, I came across that the CEO of Unity was the same guy that was CEO of EA a couple of years ago, and he got fired for doing a shitty job. But he was the guy who proposed charging people like $1 to reload when they're out of ammo in a game. And so he's a shit person, right? Like he's a total shithead, and that's the guy running Unity. And it's like, oh man, this is not super great, because once again, Rust can't get off Unity easily. They basically need to create a new version of Rust, and that's as much as said in what Gary said with Rust 2. Rust 2 has never been, that I've seen, announced before. It's never been talked about before, and Gary casually dropped it. And I think that's his way of saying, we are going to need to do a recode here eventually, and there is going to be a new version of the game. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. We are in a if you've noticed on the macro sense in the world, a lot of things are changing, a lot of things are breaking down, and this is one like smaller fractal version of that, I guess. And it's going to be very interesting to see where this leads. I'll be happy to keep you up to date as more comes to light over the weeks and coming months. But fuck Unity, right? Okay. Anyway, and I try to be positive most of the time, but really, fuck Unity, man. It's such dumb bullshit. Such dumb corporate bullshit. I could just ugh, ugh. You feel me? Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on. Uh on staging this week, though, we do have the first iteration of a new building skin, and this is the Brutalist skin, of which we've seen commits for a couple months now, and we've never quite had confirmation of what building tier it's going to be. We've never had confirmation of what it's going to look like, but we do have our first glimpses here, and this is the Brutalist skin. It is concrete. It is, if you were if you were in doubt, yeah, that's concrete. It's not much else. It's concrete, and it is an armored tier upgrade. So this is the top tier building skin, and or top building tier, I should say, and it's the first skin of its kind for that armored tier. Now, I do want to point out this is a first iteration. We have seen skins hit staging before and then had visual changes after they had hit staging. So on on Twitter, especially when I posted pictures, a lot of people came out and said, this looks like shit, or it's plain, it's ugly, it's why would anyone ever use this? And yes, it is very minimalistic. I'll be, I'll be, uh, you know, like as politically correct as I can. It's a
It needs
minimalistic
some
design.
more to show that it's armored for sure.
But yeah, it's a little too close to stone interior. It looks like the inside of stone at first glance, very much so. And it's a little plain Jane. I'll just call a spade here. It's a little plain Jane, but I do think we might see another iteration of it where it is improved upon. This is once again first iteration. There's a couple weeks until the October update when I assume this would go live, but nothing's confirmed. And most likely this will go live as a DLC. As with other building skins, it is not changing anything with the damage stats or with uh, collisions or whatever. It is purely aesthetic. And I do think the aesthetics could use a little work because it's kind of plain now, but it is the first iteration. So, and it's concrete. If you didn't notice, it's a concrete building. Um, and and so we'll keep you up to date on it. The inside is concrete too, but it's kind of like the what is it? Um,
It's like the walls at Harbour almost. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's
industrial building.
Yeah, it's an industrial
All right.
vibe, you know. It's
Yeah.
minimalist, you know. Some people really love minimalism, and you know, now you got a minimalist skin. I don't want to be too mean. I mean, it's a first iteration. What are we gonna do here? It's the first iteration.
Exactly. In fairness, it'll blend them over the cliffs and the
And it does.
rocks.
Yeah, it'll
I
blend
don't.
in. And also, I do want to say you might have some newer people going, "Oh, I'm going to blow a hole in this stone base," and then boom, look at that.
That's right.
Surprise,
They need a lot
motherfucker.
more. So yeah.
No, I don't like. Well, I don't. What is it called? God damn it, I lost it. Um, I don't mind clear stuff, like clean stuff, but I do think it needs something at least to show that it's armored.
Also, it would make sense to me that because you're using high quality metal to upgrade, it would make sense that it could have some metal accents or something like that. But all this
Yeah,
probably is planned. You know, we're sitting here, and I think that's the main thing. A lot of people on Twitter are like, "Oh my God, this is why would they launch this?" It's like they haven't launched it yet. This is staging. This is a first iteration.
sneak peek. Yeah,
It's a sneak peek, and it's very likely to change. And hey, maybe if you set the bar low, you know, and then you improve upon it, everyone's going to like it that much more. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll keep you up to date on the Brutalist skin, but that is the first iteration of it, and it's concrete if you missed that.
I
Now
have faith.
also, yeah, I do too. Um, and it's not so bad. I mean, it's minimalist. So anyway, as with many first weeks after a forced wipe and update, we have seen some hot fixes hit the game. You might have noticed a client update or two in the past week, and just basically a couple things around that. They are actually working with a new version of Unity now. It upgraded from Unity 2019 to Unity 2021. I believe that went live in a server update yesterday, although I'm not 100% on that. Now, these Unity updates are an interesting bunch because, as we've seen in previous years when we upgrade the version of Unity, which of course is the underlying game engine, then it can improve a lot of things that were chronic issues, but it can also introduce some new bugs and glitches that previously were not a problem. So we're keeping an eye on this one. I have my fingers crossed that this resolves at least one or both of the chronic server crashing issues, which were the PhysX issue. And then also there's an AI nav mesh interaction issue, which when that happens, basically one of the junk pile scientists spawns underneath the nav mesh, tries to move but can't find the nav mesh, and then eventually that causes a server to crash. If you've been on one of our servers or any other populated server where the AI isn't moving, that's likely due to there was a AI related crash. And then what the team at Facepunch has instructed us to do is just disable the AI movement until the next daily restart. That gives time for that AI element, whichever one is causing issues, to despawn, and then it kind of sort of resolves itself. But I am excited to see if Unity 2021, we've got 2 years of updates in Unity, maybe they've solved one or both of those issues. So we'll have less server crashes. Because I know server crashes are such a pain in the butt. It's something that we, as server owners, can't do anything about. We run the vanilla version of the game, and when that crashes, we just have to restart the game, and it does result in, you know, some a couple minute rollback. It throws people off their game. It can interrupt raids and all this stuff. It's really frustrating, and it's also unfortunately something that the developers like Facepunch actually are powerless to fix as well, because it's an issue, from my understanding at least. Once again, I'm not a game developer, all that stuff, but it's my understanding that Facepunch can't even fix this because it's an underlying issue with Unity. So hopefully Unity 2021 handles this better and we see less server crashes. That's my intention, at least. We'll see if that comes to fruition over the next couple weeks as Unity 2021 is rolled out and tested. On top of that, as far as hot fixes is concerned, global base rendering that went live with the update last week has been disabled. It needed some more tinkering. It did seem a little too good to be true, the idea that you could see every base and at least a low poly version of every base across the map. It was like, wow, that's incredible how they do that. Well, they didn't quite do that because they had to disable it, but they are working on it, and it looks like some tweaks are being made, and it looks like they will actually be able to do that at some point in the future. And I love that, because the idea that you can see bases from across the map, and then also if you have performance concerns, if your computer isn't a quantum, NASA computer, then you can disable it and you're fine. So excited to see that actually go live in the game. No word on when or if it actually will, but they are making progress on it after the disabling of it. And this was just due to a number of glitches that were discovered after the launch and force wipe of the update. They also removed several F1 console debug text messages. They fixed some weapon rack stuff. They fixed some, rock formation colliders and things, and some homing missile launcher errors. And they also fixed the homing missile launchers sometimes being unable to target air vehicles. So just some, general hot fixes and glitches that were present but undistinguished when the forced wipe and update went live. And then, they're fixing them hotly. Yeah. Also, we've seen some parachute fixes. These are not live in the game yet. They're still on, last I checked, separate branches, but we're seeing some changes and fixes to the parachute. Specifically, it's not going to reach full speed immediately. It will soon have some gradual momentum introduced to it. So it takes more like 1 second to reach full speed. Not really a big change for the player experience so much, but it is something they're working on. Also, they're improving the dismount forgiveness and collisions along that. So, certain times, if you collide into something, that it auto dismounts and tosses the parachute, and they're cleaning that up a little bit so it's a bit more forgiving in various different instances around the map. Finally, they're also fixing some various issues. One in particular was playing the wooden jibs sound, or gibs, jibs, GIF, I don't know, GIF. Anyway, there's some
GIF?
wooden, yeah, some jib sounds when the parachute breaks. If you hear wood, that's going to be fixed, and some various other fixes and things like that to the parachutes. Also, they're working a lot on this tutorial island, which, as the name would suggest, looks like some island where you're able to learn the game. And based on the commits, not only this week, but actually specifically earlier today, what that's kind of taken form into, and what I'm seeing, is it's going to be a server that's like a tutorial server. And then when a player spawns, is actually going to create a small island just for them from the looks of it. And then on that island, you're going to have a couple different like opportunities to learn the game. And it looks like they're utilizing the mission system to teach people how to build a base and fill the tool cupboard with 24 hours of, decay protection, and various other ways and dynamics of the game. And just learning that in an environment that isn't as harsh as spawning as a naked on a beach in a vanilla server with 500 people on it, so to speak. And so that's going to be cool. It's going to allow new installs of the game. And I say install the game, and I see Gary's bank account going down 20 cents, 20 cents, 20 cents. Anyway, new installs of the game to learn the game in not such a harsh environment. So that's Tutorial Island. No visuals on this yet. I imagine it's just going to be like a small proc gen island with some special features on it for people to be able to go through the whole process of learning at least the basics of base building and gathering and all that good stuff. No word when it's going to go live, but they are making some great progress on it. So I think it's possible we could see it in October, although given the scope of this work, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes till November or December to actually go live. Regardless, not really going to impact if you're a established player in the game, you're probably never going to even check this out. So it's really for people who are kind of new to the game and helping them get their feet in the water, so to speak. Now, this, as players, may impact you actually. They are doing some improvements to the in game server browser, and they're re implementing a cached server browser system. I think there was a system like this in the past. They got rid of it for certain reasons, and now they're trying to bring it back. The idea being that given there's thousands and thousands of servers in the game, if they reload, if they have the, you know, each server browser in the game reload fresh every single time the game loads, then it's easy to have certain servers just not respond to the ping in time or whatever, and then they don't show up on the list. And so, really, this body of work seems to be around having more reliable results and showing more reliably all servers that are hosting the game on that in game server browser. We're tracking this. It's still in a separate branch, so not sure if it'll make it in for this month's update, or I should say next month's update, the October update. But we'll keep you posted as more comes to light on that. Also, there is a bunch of other stuff being worked on. They're removing some more various debug printouts in the F1 console and things like that. With Halloween coming up next month, there is some fixes to the ghost sheet costume. It looks like specifically with the parachute, they hadn't accounted for the player falling slowly through the sky and the physics of the ghost sheet costume interacting with that. So they're doing some fixes to that ghost sheet costume. They removed team interactions from the attack heli and minicopter mounted players. This fixes that promote to leader obscuring the pilot's view and things like that. That's not live in the game yet, but looks like it will be for the October update. As I mentioned before, they're doing some more work and tweaks on global networked bases. So it looks like probably they're going to shoot to relaunch that for the October update, just with the fixes and various other things in place. They're doing some miscellaneous IO fixes to weapon racks because as they were added last week, and this happens with a lot of the new items added to the game, they added in, and then there's some tweaks and fixes that need to happen. And that's exactly what we're seeing with regards to the weapon racks. Industrial conveyors will no longer put clothing items in the belt bar of a locker. So a little fix there. Also, with lockers, they fixed them declaring incorrect slot ranges for industrial transfers. And that was just basically after they added the parachute slot. They didn't account for all the instances there from an industrial standpoint. So they're just fixing that. They're doing some improvements to depth of field, DOF as it's known, in the commits at least. And that's cool because as someone who takes pictures of the game, and I often use DOF to take screenshots, and various other content creators will use DOF to create cool little effects and some, contrast and uniqueness with the shot they're taking. It's cool to see some changes to DOF. I'm excited to see those go live and see, how they enable content creators to create some more interesting looking things. They're doing some fixes to quarry animations, basically at 100 meters plus away. There was some issues with the animation, so they're fixing that. There's some scaling fixes to some world models. I think that was part of the weapon racks and scaling the world models for those. They just need to tweak some things there. There's some fixes to shadows on certain hairstyles. And also, they're doing this art props branch, which you might have seen some. If you look at the commits, you might have seen this art props branch. And basically, that they're adding a bunch of different, props, different items, basically. Like there's wrenches, there's an old TV, and things like that. Various things that have been added over the past couple months that you probably haven't even seen in the actual game yet, but they're actually somewhere hiding in the game code. And to that, they added an old radio model this week as well. And that about does it. Now, before we go into questions, I do want to say Charitable Rust is 1 month from today away. That's right. October 14th and 15th is when Charitable Rust 2023 is taking place. I'm super excited about this year in particular. Charity Water is the charity that we are supporting. This is the second year that we've supported Charity Water, and we're doing so because it is not only just such a fundamental cause to get behind. Everyone needs fresh water. That's like one of the most fundamental building blocks of life. And Charity Water provides that. But it's not like they just drop bottles of Dasani on people and say, peace. No, that's not it at all. What this organization does is actually go into various different underprivileged communities around the world, and they drill wells, they create technology, they create sustainability so that not only do the people who previously didn't have access to fresh water get access, but it ensures that they consistently have access for years to come. And they integrate this technology component into it where if something's wrong with like a well that they installed 6 years ago in Southeast Asia, their systems get pinged here to know that there's a problem before potentially even the people on the ground drinking out of the well know that there's a problem. And so they really focus not only on providing fresh water to communities who need it most around the world, but then ensuring that they continually have access to that fresh water. And this allows for communities to grow and thrive in ways that you wouldn't even think. And it boosts the economy in the local region. It brings people out of poverty, and it ensures that they don't die of malnutrition and dehydration. And so it's an amazing cause. The other thing I love about Charity Water is that all the funds we raise for them go directly towards these projects. It's not like 25 or 50% of the funds raised and then the other 50% goes to paying some six-figure salary to the CEO. No, they have like this board of trustees. They have these angel investors who cover all the actual operating expenses of the organization, such that for crowd fundraising and different fundraising projects like this one, Charitable Rust, 100% of the funds raised go directly towards having a positive impact and bringing fresh water to those who need it most around the world. So I'm very proud to be supporting Charity Water again this year. We're looking to raise $250,000 plus for them, and that's all going to be done through the support and generosity of you guys. So 1 month from today, mark your calendars. It's a Saturday and Sunday. This year, it's different than previous years. We are having actually accelerated 2x vanilla gameplay wipe actually for the weekend, where you can actually join the server and play Rust in a vanilla accelerated fashion with various opportunities for you to either win prizes or participate. We're having the normal vanilla gameplay down below, and then we're creating these awesome floating islands above where people can participate in talent shows, in the art contest that we've done for years running. We're shooting to have some parkour things in there so you can win scrap prizes and do that. And we're also maybe going to have some car races and stuff like that. On top of the main Charitable Rust event, Nexus Online Services and Fancy Orb are doing a couple events throughout the weekend that are going to be really entertaining and really fun to watch, and also have some prizes, I think, associated to them as well. Rust Reborn looks like they're going to be doing some bed wars throughout the weekend. And Rustaholics is also doing a building contest. So if you love building and you want to participate in that, go check out Rustaholics and see where you can sign up for that. And so it's all to say we've got multiple communities, multiple streamers in the space, all participating through this weekend for this amazing cause. And we'd love to have you be a part of it. We'd love to have you tune in to watch. And we'd love to have you join in and have a good time throughout the weekend as well. There's, of course, going to be the foreskins on the item store, the proceeds of which all go towards this amazing cause as well. And there's going to be another round of Twitch drops where you can get some exclusive charity related drops as you watch the streamers throughout the weekend and the following week. So it's going to be an awesome time. We're going to have a trailer for this going live. It looks like next week with the community update, so you can check that out. But really just mark your calendars, plan on being around, plan on tuning in. It's for a good cause and it's going to be a great time. So that is Charitable Rust 2023. And with that, Misty, do we have any questions from the audience?
Not a lot, but we have some. But let's start with when is whip, as always.
Sorry, I got distracted by a message from Facepunch. Whip is at regular scheduled time. The servers wiping today are the weekly Thursday wipe servers for Rustafied. So that's your mains, your smalls, your barons. and your Zen Labs. And those happen at regularly scheduled time for the region, which is 3 p.m. local time for the region, which means most regions have already wiped. SEA was like 11, 12, 13 hours ago, something like that. They live in the future, you know. And then EU was 3.5 hours ago, 3 hours and 35 minutes to be more precise. And that was EU main, EUS as well wiped, and EU small, EU barren, and Zen Labs. And then in what is it, an hour and a half roughly at 3 p.m. Eastern is when the US servers will wipe, and that's going to be US main, small, barren, and Zen Labs. These are map wipes only because we did do a blueprint wipe for most of our servers, except medium threes just last week with the forced wipe and update. And yeah, that's what's going on with the whips today.
I saw someone say in chat that Unity already announced that they are taking back the changes this morning. So
Oh,
I don't
did
know
they?
if
I missed
there's,
that. Well,
I
good.
have no idea if it's true or not, but I
Yeah,
just noticed you said it.
I did not see that. I was looking at their tweets earlier, but I didn't see that. But also, I didn't like look in depth enough. That's great to hear if they do that. I I was frankly going to be surprised if they didn't do that because man, what a shot to the foot that is. What a dumb idea that was, and what just an outrage it sparked with all game developers. And you had multiple developers saying, hey, I've been developing this game for 2 years and screw that, I'm pulling it off Unity, I'm switching. So that could have been a death blow to Unity. So I am very happy to hear that they are rolling that back, if indeed they are. uh, but thank you for that update and that news, and I'm going to check that out after this stream is done.
Is there any news on the pet update?
Ooh, pet update. Man, that's down there in concept limbo a bit, isn't it? We did see for a while this pets branch and pets 2 branch be worked on. And it looked like kind of a build off of the Frankenstein's monster stuff that they did for the Halloween content. And it's going to be interesting to see if they have the Frankenstein's monsters again for next month's Halloween content. But basically, yeah, they were working on these pets. They were working on a taming leash or taming collar. And they had like 3 breeds of dogs at the very least. It looked like most of the pets were going to be dogs to start. And they were working on this for a while, but then we haven't seen anything on it for months and months now. And that's where it's at. I'd say it's in the concept limbo bucket. It might not be on the bottom, but it's definitely in the middle of that bucket. They might reach in there and grab it out at some point in the future, but I have not heard any specifics about that for months. So your guess is as good as mine. I'd say that's just in that limbo state.
Do you stay? I'm gonna try again. Do you think we'll get new content for the trick or treat event?
Yeah, I think we will. Generally speaking, each year they do a couple different of these holiday events, including the Halloween one. And generally speaking, we see some changes or some new features to the Halloween or to the holiday content. And that can be skins on the item store that are exclusive. And that can also be just other in game server events that come into play. And generally speaking, we do see new content each year with those. And so I have no reason to think this year is going to be any different. I imagine we will see some new Halloween content when it goes live next month sometime.
Is there a Rustafied server where the tech tree is disabled so that the only way to learn a blueprint is to get the item and research it?
No, there is not a Rustified server that has tech tree disabled. Our bread and butter is kind of that good old fashioned official vanilla gameplay stuff. And so with that, we really stick to just whatever the vanilla state of the game is. And given that vanilla state does include a tech tree, we're running tech trees across the board.
How can I test the new Brutalist skin? When I load up my staging server, the option with the hammer is not there. What can I do to change that?
Probably nothing for the time being. Artemis and Misty also are in that boat. They can't upgrade. I can upgrade, and I'm not sure. What we've seen with previous skins on the item store, wait, what am I saying? Skins on the item store. Building skins on staging. Sorry, total just mini stroke there. What we've seen when building skins hit staging previously is not everyone can necessarily do it, but there's been some times when if you either own a previous building skin, you have access, or there was with the last one, and this might be the case with this one, I haven't confirmed, but if you have like that mistake book or whatever in your inventory, that's the thing. That's like the golden ticket that gives you access to this building skin. I'm not sure specifically how they're doling out access to this, but I am thankful that for some rhyme or reason I have access to it. But will you be able to test it and play with it on staging? If you can't right now, I don't think there's anything you can do to change that, although it might change as we get closer to this going live, and maybe they'll do another iteration. Maybe they'll improve and iterate on the visuals of it a bit, and then maybe give access to people who say have purchased the you know container skin, building skin, or whatever. But yeah, it's really kind of luck of the draw, it seems, at this point, and also maybe age of your account and what random bullshit you have in your Steam inventory.
Okay, I just saw he about the Unity. He said it's fake. The statement is fake, so they did not take it back. I think.
Yeah, I looked and I didn't see them taking it back. I saw them doing some firefighting, and trying to address the community's questions. And here we have an open forum here where you can do your questions and we'll address each one. But they're not really addressing the questions. They're just like, oh yeah, fraudulent things. Oh, we totally won't charge you for that. Well, how? How are you detecting the fraudulent things? How are you going to have the developers put in a complaint for that? Is your support system and your support team magically going to start responding to people better than it ever has? Such giving people back. I mean, there's so many things that are complete bullshit with this, and that's all I saw was them doing some corporate like firefighting to try to put out this PR bonfire they fucking set earlier in the week. But I have not seen them roll it back. I would love to see them roll it back, but I feel like they might be too stubborn and just fucking dumb to roll it back. So we'll see. This could be the end of Unity. I don't know. And to that, it wouldn't be the biggest loss in the world, I don't think.
Maybe for Fortnite.
Maybe.
Any news on the scrap plane?
No, we haven't seen much on the scrap plane. So I'm not going to say that's like deep in the concept limbo bucket, so to speak. We only saw a couple commits around it and didn't really get any specifics, no visuals, no anything like that. But I do think that would be a really interesting add to the game, is some sort of maybe slow flying plane, but no word on that. And we're not seeing any commits moving that forward. So I don't think it's a priority in the current development cycle.
So you can't shoot off the submarines anymore. Is there any plans on fixing that so that the bullets don't all count as projectile loss?
I have not heard any specifics around that. I do know the projectile invalid stuff is a pain in the ass in multiple different contexts in the game, and this being one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if it does get resolved at some point, but that said, I haven't seen any specific movement forward to resolve that looking at the commits.
Do you think it's time to crack? Hold on. Next question.
Okay.
I just read the rest. Have you picked the winners for the skin contest for Child Rust yet?
We have some finalists. We are working internally on that. We're having a conversation with Face Punch next week to get their opinion on it, and we will be picking them by the end of the month. I do want to thank everyone who worked on the skin contest for Charitable Rust. Literally, we got such quality uh like submissions this year, higher quality than any other year we've seen before. I was really blown away by the awesomeness and how impressive a lot of these skins were, which actually makes our job of picking the finalists even harder. But thank you guys so much to everyone who did participate in that, who did put a skin out. And we will, by end of this month, beginning of October, have those finalized and be announcing the winners.
I think that's it.
All right, cool. Well, I do want to do a quick recapity cap here, just for anyone just tuning in. First and foremost, RIP Unity. If you haven't seen the shit show that's going on with Unity this week, go to Gary2Rs.net, Gary.net, and check out his most recent post. He summarizes it really good with a post entitled Unity Can Get Fucked. And long and short, they're looking on top of what they're already charging developers and what they already agreed on for years and years to charge developers. Now, next year, beginning in January, they're going to be adding a tax per game install. And it doesn't take a super rocket scientist, critical thinker to realize how fucking dumb this is. It's just a bad idea. It's prone for exploits. It's prone to be abused. And it's just fucking developers over to put a little extra money in Unity's pocket because, they went public 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and their stock has fucking tanked. So this might be the death blow for Unity unless they roll this back and apologize. But as of yet, they have not rolled it back. They have not apologized. They've done a little PR firefighting, but man, it's like I come up with this phrase a lot, but it's like a garden hose on a forest fire. It's not really doing much. People are pissed. Developers are switching off Unity. Unfortunately, that's not an option for Rust. It's like 10 years in development now, and you can't just switch underlying game engines easily. You have to recode fucking everything, basically. So it's kind of a nightmare from that standpoint. But one interesting thing did come out of it. If you read the last sentence of Gary's blog, Rust 2 is confirmed. So what that's going to mean for Rust, what that's going to mean for the development cycles, what that means for Facepunch in general, it's going to be interesting to see. I am not a developer of Rust. I am not on the Facepunch payroll. So I'm just a fan of the game. We're just fans of the game like you all. So we don't really know what this is going to entail, where this is going to lead over the coming weeks and months. But I am going to keep a close eye on it. And I would be happy to keep y'all up to date each week as we do an update preview stream every Thursday, same time, same place. Also, if you miss it one week, we are uploading it to YouTube on Fridays. So you can see on our Rustafied Gaming YouTube channel, you can see a VOD of this as well if you ever miss it. But we'll keep you up to date with how this Unity shit show is panning out. But Rust 2 is confirmed. So that's going to be interesting. Not sure what that's going to look like or when that's going to be or how it's going to roll out, but Rust 2 is confirmed. And that's literally the first mention I've ever heard of Rust 2. And I think that's just Gary's casual way of dropping it and saying, yeah, we're not fucking with Unity anymore after this. And rightfully so, because fuck Unity. Also on staging, we've got the Brutalist skin has been added. And let me say, this is the first iteration of the Brutalist skin. It is the first of its kind armored tier building skin for the game. And it's concrete. And it's if you're a minimalist, you're going to love this building skin. If you're a minimalist and you love concrete, this is the skin for you. Also, if you want to confuse new players into thinking that you're an idiot and you just did the inside of a stone building,
Soft side out.
soft side out,
Yeah.
then this building skin is for you. But it is a first iteration, so it's very likely, and we have seen with previous building skins that have hit staging, we've seen visual improvements and changes to them after their initial hit on staging. So I do hope that is the case with this building skin, but we will keep you up to date as always. I imagine this will come with a DLC in the upcoming October update. And we'll keep you up to date on staging with how this progresses over the coming weeks. If you want to test it out on staging, you probably can't because everyone doesn't have access to upgrade to this building tier. For some reason, my account does. I don't know if that's because I have that little book of mistakes that was given out to people who joined staging one random time on one random day 8 years ago, or if it's some other thing, if they gave it to some content creators and not some others, or if it's because I own a previous building skin. I'm not sure why I have access to it. I don't ask questions in cases like this. I'm just thankful I have access to this so that I can show you guys off, and then you guys can rip it to shreds, visually speaking. So, but we'll keep you up to date as this building skin progresses. Also, as is not uncommon at all with the week after a force wipe and update, we saw a number of hot fixes go live in the form of optional client and server updates. Specifically, the server build has been updated from Unity 19 to Unity 21. So that's a new version of this underlying game engine that everyone hates. Hopefully, that does fix some of these server crash things, specifically the AI nav mesh stuff and the PhysX stuff. We're not sure yet. We're still seeing some server crashes here and there. So we'll let you know as time progresses and we get more experience with this. They're working more on uh, global networked bases and global rendering, to see the base from across the map. That went live with the update last week, but it was a little too good to be true. There were some various issues and glitches and unforeseen problems with it. So they did disable that global rendering with a hotfix, and now they're back on the kind of drawing board, so to speak, improving that and doing fixes to it. So I do think we will see that global network bases at some point, maybe in October, but for the time being, it is disabled pending another rework of fixes. They remove some console debug text messages or text, things, and they're fixing some things with weapon racks and some colliders, and they fix some homing missile launcher errors, and sometimes the homing missile launcher wasn't able to target air vehicles, and that was fixed, and all that went live in some hot fixes earlier this week. Now, on staging, they are doing some more fixes to parachutes. Basically, they're adding some forward momentum so that instead of being full speed immediately upon deploying the parachute, it's going to take a second to get up to full speed. Little stuff. And doing some various fixes to dismounting and collision based dismounts to make it a little more forgiving and a little more, I don't know, better. Sorry, I thought I had another word for that, but my vocabulary is a little weak today, apparently. And then finally, they're also fixing playing the wooden jib sound when the parachute breaks. So that's going to be fixed. And all that will probably go live in October with the update. They're doing some more work on the tutorial island. And this is a new island that will, from the looks of it, basically give new players the ability to learn some dynamics of the game without just throwing them like head first into a vanilla 500 pop server on the beach naked with a rock. It looks like this is going to be a specific type of server that when a player joins, it's actually going to spawn a small island just for them. And then on that island, from the looks of it, there's going to be various missions to teach them the various dynamics and gameplay things. So, yeah, my vocabulary is crap today. What's going on with my brain? Anyway, Tutorial Island, not sure when it's going to be coming, but, it'll probably be sometime in the next couple months. And if you have a friend and you give them the game or they get the game, you could probably send them to Tutorial Island to get the basics of how the game will work. They're working on some server browser improvements as well. This is the in-game server browsing dynamic. They're re-implementing a caching system so that basically it'll more reliably show all the thousands of servers that are on the list. No word on when that's going to be live, but hopefully before the October update. And they're working on a bunch of other stuff, removing some various debug printouts. They're fixing the ghost sheet costume for next month's Halloween event. They removed some team interactions from the tech helicopter and minicopter mounted players, which fixes that promote to leader thing, obscuring the pilot's view. They're doing some more tweaks to weapon racks, and the global network bases, as I mentioned, is being worked on. They're fixing some industrial conveyor stuff, specifically with lockers after the addition of the parachute slot. They're working on a new version of DOF, which is depth of field, which should be cool for content creators and people who like taking screenshots like me to have just some more better looking DOF. So that should be cool. They're fixing some quarry animations, specifically when the quarry is like 100 meters away. There's some wonkiness with the animations there. They're fixing some scaling of the world models, which I think was just a result of the addition of weapon racks and the subsequent scaling of world models they did for those. They're fixing some shadows on the hairstyles, and they're adding a new old radio model to the art props branch, which will just be some various other art props that will be somewhere in the game that content creators and custom map makers and stuff like that can utilize, which is cool. I do also want to say, once again, we are 1 month away from Charitable Rust. I'm so super excited about this year's Charitable Rust. We're supporting Charity Water, and amazing organization. We're going to have a trailer out next week that gives you a little sneaky peeky of what the event's going to be, but you will have the ability to play a actual weekend wipe accelerated 2x vanilla gameplay on the Charitable Rust main event server. And then on that server, you'll also be able to participate in things like the talent show and win prizes with parkour, and also do the art contest. If you've ever been around a Charitable Rust before, the art contest is such an awesome event. It runs the whole day, and we got great prizes for the winners there. And every year there's amazing artwork created, and this year we're going to have it as well. And it's all going to be integrated into an actual gameplay server this year, which I'm really excited about. So mark your calendars, Saturday and Sunday, October 14th and 15th. And on top of just the normal Charitable Rust server, we got Nexus and Fancy Orb doing a bunch of awesome events that are going to be really entertaining and some can participate in. There's a building contest run by Rustaholics, and Rusty Reborn is going to be doing a Bed Wars event as well. So it's going to be an action-packed weekend full of different events that you can participate and watch. And there's going to be Twitch drops and exclusive foreskins on the item store, the proceeds of which go towards this amazing cause, Charity Water, as well. So super excited about it. Stay tuned, mark your calendars, all that good stuff. And with that, we're going to wind this puppy down. I do want to thank my co-MCs as always, Artemis and Misty. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. But
Yeah.
that was, sorry, Artemis.
Oh, one more
That was
question.
just not a question, he said. Just thank you for all the live streams. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you for that acknowledgement. And you're
Sugar
so
beast.
welcome. Oh, sugar beast, you sugar beast, you man. I love you so much, and much love to you all. I so love doing this. It's funny. I start sometimes. It's like a little bit before the stream. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this week. But then I get on. And I have such a good time just talking and sharing with you guys and interacting with you guys. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, we're an independent organization. We're not on the Face Punch payroll. We're not developers of the game. We just are fans of the game who love reporting on development news and running the best servers that we possibly can. And the only way we can do that is through the support of the community. So to each and every one of you that tune in each week, thank you. To people who give bits and subscribe on Twitch, thank you so much. And especially to our wonderful, beautiful, loyal VIP customers, thank you so much for the support. We would not be able to run the servers we do and show up every week and report on development news like we do without the support of the community. So just thank you so much. Much love to you all. And with that, we're going to wind this puppy down. We'll be back same time, same place next week. In the meantime, check us out on X or whatever, Rustified, for news throughout the week. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful wipe. This is Bugs signing off.